so that the people who aren't on can watch it later. But again, Delora and I, we meet every day and we talk through business. We talk about mindset stuff. We share about our families. We've actually become friends through masterminding. Um, so again, the importance, Delora, I would let you talk about the importance of having a mastermind or people that you can bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, what it has done is it lets you get out of your own head, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you work at home alone. It's not like being in a corporation where you have a colleague you can go have coffee with, or even just pop your head over the cubicle and say, hey, you know what? I'm stuck on this presentation. What do I do now? So having a mastermind helps you kind of get out of your own head and allows you to see things that you can't see. The other great thing about, in our case, is that we all bring something different to the table. So it's not like everyone's in mindset, and I'm able to pull on their knowledge that I don't have, and it just kind of gives me a broader toolbox. My toolbox is much more full now because I have you guys to help me with stuff, and vice
Absolutely.
versa. Yeah.
Absolutely. And since I didn't do a formal introduction, let me do that. Good thing this isn't like a podcast. We just dove right in. So Delora is a mindset expert, um, and I will let her explain in her own words what that is. But Delora, she helps you get unstuck in
Yeah.
business, even not only in business, but if you're dealing with personal things, she helps you overcome obstacles with, maybe not being fearful or feeling like you're not enough sometimes or being scared to put yourself out there. She has tons of different tools and tactics and strategies that you can apply to yourself and, in your business ideas, in different situations that you may find yourself in. And she has coached some of her coaching clients are making, five figures, up to $40,000 a month, just following strategies that she's given them, and she's getting me there, right? So, but again, a lot of times, we don't have, because we don't have the tools, so we aren't reaching goals because we don't have the tools to apply to ourselves that can help us break down some of the barriers that we have that are keeping us from progressing. Okay. So Delora, I will let you, in your own words, explain what mindset mastery is. And Delora runs the Richer Life Mindset. But I will let you explain in your own words what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that, Anthony or AJ. So what mindset is basically, it's how you're looking at the world. And all of us were given a set of beliefs, patterns, experiences throughout our lives that then become the file folder in which is we draw from in order to be able to react to things that are happening in our life. That's the kind of simplistic version of it. But really what it means is that we have a filter that we see things through. And that filter may be helping us or it may be hurting us. It's kind of like, people are wearing rose-colored glasses, but if you take it off and they see reality, it doesn't look anything like they thought. So what I help people do is see it really how it is, without the judgment, without the limited beliefs, without the typically harsh lens that we use to apply to ourselves, because we're always harder on ourselves than we are on anyone else. And I really hold the mirror so that you guys can look in it and see what the truth is for yourself so that you're able to take steps moving forward. And one of the key things is our brain is designed to keep us safe, quote unquote. And keeping us safe means not changing. So it was filled up with all kinds of experiences about how you should think about money, what you should think about business, what you should think about relationships, how you should be seen in the world or not seen, depending on what your beliefs were. And all of that was given to you from the age of 0 to 7 by your parents, by your grandparents, depending on whoever was in your life, school, whatever it was. And it may have served you well, or it may have actually made you believe things that weren't necessarily true about business and money and etc. And so what I help people do is find those patterns, break them down, and move forward in a way that makes sense and gets them success, because they don't have to carry those patterns anymore.
I love it. I love it. And there was one practice in particular, Delora, that I wanted you to share with them, and it was one that you shared with me. So before I ask her to do that, I'm going to give you guys an example of something that I was kind of thinking through. and I will let Delora explain to me how she was able to help me break through that or have that breakthrough. And I went, that was 2 Fridays ago, and I've since probably, I don't even know how much money I've made just from that particular conversation, right? So um, one of the things that happens as entrepreneurs and as business people is we get down into the weeds of our business, right? And we're constantly trying to figure out, you know, how to solve new problems when sometimes we have the tools already or we have the resources already there to generate the revenue that we need to generate, but we aren't looking at it because we're in our business, right? And Delora gave me a tactic, you know, of breakthrough. So again, I have a certain amount of money that I have made in my life, and you know, it's a pretty decent six-figure salary. And psychologically, I feel like whenever I get around that number, that's kind of where I take my foot off the gas, right? So let's just say, for example, it's $100,000, right? So AJ is accustomed to making $100,000 no matter what, like on a slow year, on a fast year, whatever, right? Now, what happens is if it's November and I'm not really close to making $100,000, or if I'm at $80,000, then I'll ramp up my efforts to make sure that I hit $100,000. But if it's November and I've made $100,000, then the month of December I take my foot off the gas and I'm like, okay, I've already hit my number, right? So the exercise that Delora had me go through taught me about not necessarily attaching the $100,000 to what I consider success, but it talks about setting a tier or setting a number that you want to make more than what you're making now, and then some different ways that you can think about reaching whatever that next number is. So that when you get to 100,000, you don't stop at 100,000, you keep going, right? So it's a very, very helpful tactic. And Delora, would you mind explaining that? Well, I'll tell you what, let me, does anybody have any questions so far? We just dove right in. So I know this is a Q&A session, and I'm definitely going to get to some of the questions. Delora's been on calls all day, so I want to be respectful of her time. But do you guys have any questions of Delora before I let her go into the exercise that she told me? And I'll tell you what, I'm going to unmute your microphones. Somebody type hi in the chat window so I can see. Hello, everybody. Not everybody. Okay, cool. All right, so any questions before Delora goes into her exercise? Okay. All right, so Delora, I will let you go into the exercise that you had me walk through when I came to you that fateful Friday morning.
Sure. So this exercise is not my own. I will say that right up front. David Nagel is the one that I've heard him take people through, and it works really effectively. And the one thing that we had to get to was, what was the real fear behind hitting a higher number than you had been hitting before? And originally it presented itself as fear of success. And a lot of people will say that, right? I'm scared of success, or I'm scared of failure. But that's not enough to stay there. So you have to ask yourself, really, what is it about success? And for most people, they've associated a fear, or they've associated something bad with success. So, you know, successful people are crooks, or it's really, you know, if you become really successful, nobody likes you anymore. It doesn't matter what it is. There isn't a fear that's been attached to success or failure, depending on and probably both, to be quite honest, from your childhood. And it could be like, success may mean rich in your mind. It just depends on how you were raised and what was coming up. So the exercise is, you take a piece of paper, of the paper horizontally, you draw a line, and you call that your need line.
And Delora, can you see my screen?
I can, yep.
Can you guys see my screen? I'm going to go through this while Delora is, let's see, new slide. Let me get rid of all this crap. And I'm going to do the exercise. Delora, you said in the middle?
Yeah, in the middle, you draw a horizontal line, and that's
Yep.
called your need line. And everybody should know this number. If you don't get to know your numbers, I can understand that you could be scared of them. There's a lot of people that don't know what they currently make or what they currently need because it's scary to look at numbers sometimes. If that is the case, then let AJ know, and I can give you guys a different exercise for that because it means that you're scared of money, and that's okay, but that's a different fear. We're not talking about that today. Figure out what your number is now. How much do you need to make each month? And let's just say for ease, it's 5,000 each month. And that amount of money is including all your bills and not for any extravagancies. It's just like that's what's going to pay, and I'm going to feel comfortable with this number. At the bottom of the page, you're going to draw another line, and that line is going to be called your poverty line. And that line is the whatever you know is poor. Now, if you've never been homeless or you don't know anyone directly in your life that's been homeless, that wouldn't be your poverty story. But there is a standard that you understood that those people are poor compared to you. Could have been you, depending on what your story is. Then at the top of the page, you're going to draw a third line, and that line is your wealth line. And you also have a story about who is wealthy. And what we're going to do now is everybody's comfortable around their need line. And for most people, we've been raised to be really responsible, which means that we know that we should pay our bills on time and that, you shouldn't spend more than you make and all that kind of stuff. That keeps us comfortable, and that's around the need line. But we have all been there where there's 1 or 2 months where you don't pay your bill on time, or maybe you miss a car payment, or maybe you miss a phone bill every other month or something like that. And that means that you fall underneath your need line. You didn't make enough money for your 5,000, but say you made 30 or 4,500. Nobody notices if you make 4,500. Your phone company might call you one extra time, or you might get a late notice in the mail, but it's not a real big deal. You might feel bad, but it's not going to have any dire consequences. But if it gets worse and you really don't pay bills for, say, 3 or 4 months, you might be making, let's say, $2,000. People start to notice that. So people start to notice that you are, not paying bills, so your car gets repossessed, or there could be notifications, your gas or your power could be turned off, or whatever it is. And if that's the case, you start getting more and more uncomfortable the further towards the poverty line you get. When you start to go too close to the poverty line, your urgency kicks in and you start to ramp it up and make more money. So you go back up again. And everybody kind of fluctuates like that. Very few people, or you stay exactly at the need line. Now, the same is true if you go the other way. If you go above the need line towards the wealth line, if you make a little bit more money, say you make $6,000, you have an extra $1,000 a month to play with. To some of you right now, that might seem like, oh my God, that would be fantastic. But at first, not everyone's going to notice. You might get a new pair of shoes, maybe the kids get new backpacks, or a whole new wardrobe with $1,000, but it's not going to be too uncomfortable, and it's not going to be real flashy. Say you make $10,000 a month, that's going to start getting more noticeable. That's a little bit closer to the wealth line. Again, it's going to get closer to discomfort. You might start feeling like, oh my God, they're going to talk about me. I can't buy that car. Oh my goodness, they're going to know that I make a lot of money. I'm going to be, that snobby rich person. And so what you do is subconsciously you stop making money. You take your foot off the gas and you go back down to closer to your need line, which is usually, right around 5,000, maybe 6,000, but it's all around the same amount of money. And so what we need to do at this point is take the line that's, the 4,500, no real negative change. That line, what is your bottom line for you? It's not really 5,000, that's your need line, but your bottom line is, I'm not going to go under 4,500. If I do, I pick up 2 clients like that. So the 4,500, you need to bring it above your 5,000 need line, and that's your new need line.
So I'm trying to do it, Delora, but somehow my PowerPoint is frozen. Um,
That's okay.
but yeah, that's fine. But I think in theory you guys understand what she's saying. So would you explain it one more time, Delora, the last part of
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, so what you want to do is you want to take the line that's underneath your need line, like it's where you start to kick in the gas. Like if it's the 20th of the month and you've only made $44,000 and you need to make 5, that's when you step on the gas and you do a little more outreach, or you book some, or make a few more phone calls that you wouldn't have made, that kind of thing, because you're starting to feel the urgency of needing to make more money. What we want to do is we want to take that 4,500 in this example, and we want to put it above your need line. Now, this is the time when you're not going to go crazy. You're not going to say, I'm going to make $10,000 if your need line is 5, unless you really believe that you can make $10,000 easily. So in this case, let's say you're going to make 5,500. You're going to make an extra $5,000 this month, or $500 this month, sorry. And you're going to do whatever that takes. So if it means one extra client, then you're going to do whatever it takes until you have booked and banked that extra client, that extra $500. It doesn't count if you just have an invoice out to someone. They have to actually pay it. And so that becomes your new normal, 5,500. You don't go under that no matter what. Once you achieve 5,500, then you can move the line up again and say it's 6,000, 6,500, 7,000, and then you keep going up and up.
Right. So let me, does anybody have any questions? Because I want to talk about how this applies, how I was able to apply what Delora showed me, and how I was able to immediately turn around and start generating even more revenue in business. So are there any questions on how to apply that to what it is that you guys do in business? All right, so there is a quiz. I'm about to call somebody and put somebody on the spot so they can tell me how they're going to do it. Let's see. We will go with Barbara Thomas. Hey, Barbara, you there? Oh, you have to unmute your microphone on your side, Barbara.
Yes, and for some reason I knew you were going to call on me. I just joined.
You came late to the party. Don't be tardy to the party. Okay. So do you?
From what I just saw, because I just literally logged on.
Oh, that's not fair. Okay, I'll tell you what, Barbara, you're in luck because that's not fair for me to ask you because you just joined the call. So let me pick on someone else. Anyway, so Barbara, tell everybody where you're calling in from.
I'm calling from Richmond, Virginia area.
Richmond, Virginia.
I love Richmond, Virginia. I drive through there often.
Thank you.
Love it, love it. Well, thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Right. All right, so who are we going to call? Who are we going to call? Tracy T. Mitchell. Tracy T. Mitchell. Hey, Tracy, what's going on, man?
What's going on, AJ?
Not a whole lot. So,
hi, Tracy.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm really good, thank you.
Good.
Tracy's the homegirl from New Orleans, Louisiana, in the house.
Oh, I love it.
Cool. So Tracy, so Delora just explained this exercise, and I told you how it was able to help me in business. And, we talked about it 2 Fridays ago, and immediately I was able to turn around and start generating revenue. But can you explain in your words how this would work in your business?
I guess the best way I could explain it is that I would need to know sort of like what my need or what my overall expenses would be, and whatever whatever the difference would be is pretty much what I would strive to make so that I could actually transfer that the amount to become my new need line. So basically I would just have to say that I would have to work and prepare and do whatever I would need to do to basically to make up the difference of where I'm falling short. I would strive to basically try to do more because I always try to do more. So I would probably set a new goal for the wealth line, but I would in the meantime try to basically exceed the difference or whatever so that I could basically at a minimum meet the my bills and stuff or whatever for the need line.
Yeah, that's really good.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Delora.
Well, I was just going to say that's a really good way to look at it, because the reason we break down the exercise like this is because if you say to someone, how much do you want to make? You'll often hear, well, I want to make $1 million. Do you believe you can make $1 million? Not a lot of people will say yes, at least not at the early stages of business. And so the reason why we break it down like this is you may not think that you may want to make like in this example, $25,000 a month, but you may not actually really believe that you can do it. So instead, do you believe that you can make the $5,000 a month you need? Yes. What if we say 5,500? Can you make it? Yes. It feels like a stretch, but I can do it. So that's why we don't get you to aim for the wealth line, because if you aim for that, there would be something in your subconscious that tells you you can't make it. There would be a crisis that came up, or you would get worried about posting, or you wouldn't be willing to go talk to extra clients, like whatever it might be, because that number seems out of reach to your subconscious mind and it seems too scary. And like I said at the beginning, the subconscious mind wants you to feel safe. So it's going to pull you back to feel safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let me find somebody else. I know who I'm going to pick on. B. Benitra. Hey, Benitra, you there?
Here.
You know I was going to pick on you before you got off this call now. So, B, what is it that you can do to generate an extra $100 this month? In the month of October.
I actually have a course that I'm working on, but I'm on just testing it. So I'm not planning to make any money with that. I could work on picking up a coaching client.
There you go. Right. Again, it's looking at your body of work, looking at everything that you do, and saying, okay, without a shadow of a doubt, I make $5,000 a month. What can I do to get to 5,100? Right? So, I mean, or whatever that number is that you think you can make, get to that number. And then once you get to that number, you're going to do the exact same amount of work every month to get to that number. And once you hit that number, then you look around and say, okay, what can I do to get to $200 a month? Right? So again, when Delora went through this exercise with me, again, as simple as this may seem, it really worked, and it made me look at, what my number is and say, how can I increase that by, on my number, I was like, okay, well, let me get another $1,000. And I immediately went and got $1,000 within, 3 or 4 days after we talked. I think, yeah, within a couple of days.
Yeah, it was 2
Right.
days after we talked. Yeah, absolutely.
Like
In fact, I think you did more than 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, by the next Friday, I had already done more than 1,000. But again, it was just looking at that. And then another thing is it's measurable, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually track your growth as you do it over time. And like Delora said, your mind wants you to be safe, and your mind is comfortable. It's in its comfort zone. So it's like, okay, 10,000. If my number is 5,000, I'm cool at 5,000. But when you say 25,000, you may be able to say it out of your mouth, but conceivably in your brain, you're like, I really can't do that. Right.
Yeah,
So this
absolutely.
helps you incrementally get there.
Yeah. And so can I take you guys back to another exercise that you can do to just kind of check in with yourself to see, how am I really feeling? Am I showing up the way I really want to? And if not, what is holding me back? And so this is an exercise about really understanding, are there any blocks in front of me, and how do I get rid of them? So one of the things is know what your goal is or your desire. So it just depends. I mean, I will use these words interchangeably, but say your goal is a monetary amount each month, or maybe it's about speaking on stage or doing your first video or whatever it is. Put that at the top of the page and decide, okay, what is it about that I want? Why do I want this goal? Why is it important to me? I want to make more money. I want to be more visible. I want to, be seen as the expert in my area. Then on the left-hand side of the page, write down all the things that feel good about it. Recognition, visibility, whatever those positives are. Then on the right-hand side of the page, as you're writing out the reasons why you want to do it, listen for the negative voice that's going to pop in there and write down what is the negative you're hearing. You're going to make a fool of yourself. You can't speak. You're crazy to think you can do that. Why would anyone listen? Whatever it is on the right-hand side of your page, that is the negativity that's coming in. That's your subconscious mind trying to stop you from moving forward and getting the results you want. And so by seeing it on the page like that, you can then tackle it and say, okay, where does that voice come from? Why do I feel that way? Oh, I remember when I was a kid, I used to hear, well, you can't speak because you stutter, or you can't speak because people will laugh at you, or maybe you were actually laughed at. It just depends on what it was. And for each person, when you ask, you'll have a story that pops up. Oh yeah, I remember when I was 7 years old and that boy picked on me and I really thought he was cute and that really hurt my feelings. And after that, I didn't want to speak again in front of class. And so when you see it like that, then you can say, oh, I see the pattern now. I understand why I'm not willing to put myself out there. And you can then, as you're going to go do, say it's a video, if you're going to film your first video, you can then hear the voice that's going to pop in and stop you from doing it and say, I see you there. I can see that you're trying to make me stop. I'm not going to listen to you today. I'm going to film this video anyway. So you can just sit right over there in the corner, laugh all you want, and I'm going to do it anyway. And as silly as this sounds, it really does work because you're isolating that negative voice instead of letting it run on autopilot. So that's the reactive and the active thinking. And I'll give you guys another exercise that goes with this, but I'm just going to pause here to see if anyone has any questions or if that kind of makes sense.
Okay, give me a second, Delora.
Yeah.
Are there any questions so far on, setting your goal, listing out your benefits, understanding and hearing the negative voice for what it is, and then dealing with it? Delora, is this a pretty good depiction of how it can?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Benitra says she loves this exercise. Yeah, guys, I want to also give positive feedback too. I'm sorry, I'm asking you for questions, but if it's something that you like or that you can apply, I'll tell you what, how many of you guys can apply this to your business right now? Just say yes in the chat window if you can. Yep, I got a yes, 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 I definitely can.
Yeah.
Yes, works for me. Elena, it looks like Elena has a question, so I'm going to, Elena, I'm going to unmute your microphone. Elena, so I've unmuted it on my side. I pushed the mute button on your side because you're muted on your side. Ursula says yes. Hey, Elena.
What about now? Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to say, it wasn't a question. I really wanted to say thank you. I've been challenged. Anthony, I started the Innovative Mom back in April, but I've been challenged by my own little voices in my head. And I just wanted to say that this exercise has opened my eyes even more so. And the challenge that my challenge was video, and Anthony, your challenge this week was to do 5 videos. But immediately, even though I thought it was a great idea, the voices came in my head saying, okay, well, who's going to listen to you? And it's so funny that you said those things because immediately those are the things that pop in my head. And I just wanted to say thank you for the exercise because now I'm going to write it down and I'll put to the side, where did this come from? Because it's been something that's plagued me literally for months.
Yeah. Good for you. I'm so glad that you were on this call then to hear this then, because it really will, those voices, man, if they're in the driver's seat, and that's why this next exercise will help you as well, but if they're in the driver's seat, you ain't filming no video.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that or you will film the video and no one will ever see it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. So thank you very much. I appreciate these the Tuesday night calls, but I definitely appreciate the material today.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. So stepping from there, then another exercise you can do, and this is to be, you can use this together or like on the same day. You can't overwhelm this. I will tell you at the beginning of doing these kinds of exercises, you may feel tired because you're taking on a lot more mental work, mental exercise, or mixture. It's like doing aerobics in your brain, for example, whereas most times you're on autopilot. So it may make you feel a little bit more tired, but just stick with it. I promise if you do this exercise more and more, it's going to get easier and you won't feel that anymore. So the next exercise is about reactive and active thinking. And I posted a video about this, and if I still have it, I'll share it with AJ so he can put it up in the group, in his group, just because it might give you another way, if you hear it a different way explained, it might help. So what it is our brain takes over so many functions for us that we don't have to think about. Breathing, riding a bike once you know how, walking. Even sometimes if you can think, you know, you look up and you're at the grocery store and you're like, oh, how did I get here? You kind of like get there on autopilot, right? So what we want to do is we want to get your brain out of autopilot in some areas so that you can then be in control. And the reason for that is, remember at the beginning of the call, I said from ages 0 to 7, your brain is filled up with experiences, beliefs, ideas that are not your own. It's from other people and what they believe, which is not necessarily wrong, and it's not blaming anyone, but they come with their own challenges, and it may or may not be the truth. And what those experiences do for you is they sit in a file folder inside your brain in your subconscious, and every time you come up against a situation, it will hand you that folder, and it happens like in a split second, not even, and then you know how to react to the situation. So we're going to get your brain out of autopilot and into you controlling it. The first exercise is going to be really silly, but it's an extreme way to get yourself, just so you're aware of the reactive thinking. The next time you go to walk up a set of stairs, I want you to think about every single step you have to take. Lift leg, extend knee, put down foot, push off left leg, move right leg forward. Whatever, I mean, I can't even think of all the steps that are involved, but you can see how if you had to think about walking up the steps, how tiring it would be. It would be all these extra steps that have to be thought of, and how far do I put my foot ahead so I'm not stepping at the back of the stair, and do I lift my leg this much, or do I lift it just enough? It's automatic pilot, and most people can go up and down stairs without actually looking at the steps, unless ladies were wearing some heels, and then we might take a little extra care. So the reason you're going to do this exercise is because I want you to see how reactive thinking works in your brain. Now, this will also happen anytime you're not actively thinking about what you want to do. So let's take filming a video, for example. If you want to film a video and you're in reactive thinking mode, your voices will take over and say, well, no, you can't film a video. You can't do it. You don't have a proper camera. The lighting's not good. You don't know what to say. Nobody's going to listen. This is what's going to happen, whatever. That's reactive thinking. That's someone else thinking for you. It's not the truth. You may believe it because that's what you've always thought all of your life, because somewhere in your life someone said that being on video or being visible or being seen is bad. So by moving into active thinking, you can say, now, wait a minute. Yes, I can film a video. I'm going to be shaky the first time I do it, but I do have something to say here. I'm going to do it anyway. And so by using your active thinking, you can then take back the control of the plane or the steps or whatever you want to do and be the one in charge. And this is really important anytime you want to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, because your brain is going to try to keep you safe again, and reactive thinking mode is safe because it knows what to do automatically. It's going to go into the file folder. The more you do this exercise and the more you say, no, wait a minute, I'm in control here, I'm going to do this, you're going to, it's replacing the patterns or the file folders that are there. You're replacing the material that's in there in your subconscious, and then the next time you go to do it, it's going to be a lot easier because you have a new experience related to it. The only two ways to reprogram your subconscious is by sudden trauma. So like if, for example, you fall down the stairs, the next time you go down the stairs, you're going to take it easy. You're going to go careful, which I don't want anybody to have any sudden trauma. Yeah, exactly. Or, exactly, especially in heels, ladies. Or by constant state repetition, which means that you repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. That's why, anybody who learned the multiplication tables, how did we learn it, was either through, I don't know if anybody on the call did the song 2 times 2 is 4. You learned it through repeating that song over and over and it was fun, or just 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is, I don't even know, 16. I don't even know my math. Yeah, there you go. So those are the only two ways to program your subconscious. So that's why you have to take yourself out of reactive thinking when you're dealing with your mindset and get control of it again in your active thinking. I feel like I've just talked a lot there, but hopefully that makes sense for people.
It does make sense. And I had some feedback I want to unmute from, who was that? Um, all right, Barbara. Barbara had some feedback. I wanted to unmute her microphone. Barbara, you're live.
Hold on. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say that on the first exercise, the mental exercise, where you talked about writing your goals down, listening to the negative voice,
Mm-hmm.
and then writing that down. I've never heard that concept before. And then addressing that negative voice, and I like that suggestion. I think that that will definitely help me to actually address some of the negative voices that I hear when I set my goal. So thank you.
Good. You're welcome. I'm glad to hear that. You know, I was working with a health coach once, and before she started working with me, she used to book these speaking engagements because she really wanted to speak. And when we talked about it, she's like, well, I never actually did any of them. And I said, well, why is that? Well, she's like, I had laryngitis, and this other time my car broke down, and, you know, then I couldn't get my PowerPoint presentation to work, so I rescheduled it. And I said, okay, what's really going on here? Do you really want to do these speaking engagements? And she would say, yes, I want to. And I said, okay, why aren't you doing them then? And what was coming up for her is when she was in high school, she was in math class, and there was a boy that she really liked. I think she was 13 at the time. There was a boy that she really liked. She had a crush on him. And his mother was the teacher of the class. So she called on her and said, what is the answer? And she gave an answer, and it was wrong. The boy started laughing at her. Then his mother, who was the teacher of the class, started laughing too. So she had taken this association with speaking publicly as a really bad experience because the boy she liked, not only did the boy she liked laugh at her, but his mother laughed at her, and who was the teacher of the class. And then, of course, everybody laughed in the class. So she was then not even consciously sabotaging this. She didn't really have laryngitis. Sure, it physically manifested in her body, but that's not really what was happening. She was scared to actually go through with it. And her car was fine the next day. And she's like, huh, I never really thought of that before. So we have all of these associations, and I give you that example because you may be able to see that in your own life. We have all of these associations with it. So by writing down that exercise like that and then talking to the negative voice, you're taking away its power because it's no longer just running around rampant without any controls. You're then saying, hey, I see you there. And I shared this with AJ before. When I was a little girl, I used to throw tantrums when I didn't want to do something. And I hated being told what to do, hated it. And usually if you told me what to do, I would do the opposite just to prove you wrong. And sometimes now in business, I feel the same way. This little girl will show up and she throws a temper tantrum, and I can see her now because I've identified these patterns, and I look at her and say, hey, little girl, stop throwing a temper tantrum. I'm in charge right now, and we don't need that. And just by doing it, she no longer has control. And I might still not want to do it, and I might agree with why she's having the temper tantrum, but I take steps forward anyway. She no longer has the power because I'm calling her out. And so you can do the same thing for yourself once you identify where that negative voice comes from. You can say, hey, Tom, you no longer have a place in my head right now. Or if you want to tag along, you can watch me be successful doing this. You just have to shut up there in the corner.
And this is something that I have applied. So a lot of you guys know my story, but some of you don't. So I grew up without a lot. We didn't have a lot. We had a loving family, grandmother, and my grandmother, my mom. We went to church every Sunday, that whole thing. And my grandmother, she had what she called her tithe jar, where whenever she got paid, she would take 10% of whatever she got, and she would have it in cash and have it in the cash jar, so she could give it to the church. But anyway, so we grew up not having a lot, and my grandmother raised us. She was always talking about giving, right? So when you had talents, your talents, you were supposed to give your talents. So, I played the drums, so you go play the drums for the church. I was an artist as far I love to draw and paint and things like that. So, I designed T-shirts for the church. I did basically everything for free. Now, they would go out and pay other designers, but once they realized that I could draw, they're like, oh, we could just save the money and pay Tony. right? Because I grew up being called Tony. So my association to that was when you have a talent, you give your talent. So the way that messed with me once I became an entrepreneur, once I started providing services, is that I had a hard time charging people because I felt like you were supposed to give. So if it's something that you can do to help someone, you don't charge them, you do it for them, and you know, whatever. So what I was able to do, and I mean, I was able to kind of get over it, but even still, I always felt like I needed to be the bargain person, right? So even though, you know, I have clients that can go out and charge, you know, a couple $100 an hour. Initially, I started out with $25 an hour, and then my clients would go and make, you know, $10,000, but they were still paying me $25 an hour for coaching. So now what I was able to do though, now even more than working with more higher end clients, is I no longer, you know, have a problem with saying that. Well, I'll be honest. Sometimes, again, I just had a call last Friday, and the number that I said through my lips, it made me stutter a little bit, because I was like, you know, imagine this, you know, someone's like, hey, can you do this? And you've been charging people, you know, $5,000 to do it, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, that's going to cost you $25,000. Like the first time you say it is like, the 25, and then you say it with a question mark at the end, right? But again, if you can identify that that mentality comes from a different part of your life, or, you know, a different belief system that you no longer have, or a belief system that no longer benefits you, if you can identify it, the same way that Delora said on this exercise here, that identify it almost as a negative voice, then you can deal with it. You can say, you know what? I can say, Tony, yeah, you grew up that way, but that's not who you are now. So Tony, when you get nervous about charging a client, I'm going to put you over there in the corner, whatever, identify, call it out, and AJ is going to go get this money. Or what do they say in reality TV? I'm going to get these coins.
Exactly. That's a really good example, and I'm glad you shared that. The other thing, you know, it's really important to keep in mind that if you make more, you can do more. And that is sometimes lost. And I know it can be tough to think that you're going to make this kind of money in your business. It might sound great, yeah, I'm going to make $1 million. But when you really break it down, do you energetically feel like you can make that kind of money? It might feel like, oh my God, if I make that kind of money, what are people going to say about me and whatever? It's greedy to make that kind of money, depending on what your background is. All of us come from a different background, but there's so many similar stories in this that it's really important to keep that in mind. And if you make more, you can do more, and you do not have to be poor or accept less in order to do more. And like, you know, someone's got to fill up your cup if you're going to keep pouring from it. Another analogy is put on your face, your mask first. And if a plane, you know, in a plane, you have to put your mask on first before you help anybody else. It's the same thing here, and that's really important. And for anyone that struggles with self-worth or confidence issue, this can be a really tough area for you. But once you identify, like, you know, AJ talks about little Tony, same thing. Like for me, it was the little girl that threw a temper tantrum. Once you identify it, it doesn't have to be the one in control, and it's not scary. You can say, you know what, little girl, I see you want to make a temper tantrum, but you're safe right now. It's okay. You can move forward. And it just kind of gives you that little bit of confidence.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have some more feedback. So I'm going to unmute your microphone, Ursula. Let's see here. Well, I'm trying to, but it won't do it. Hold on. Give me un momento. Okay, for whatever reason, it's not working on yours, Ursula. You're lucky. Are there any questions? That's totally awesome. I often forget the concept, if you make more, you can do more. That's absolutely right, Barbara. Let me see what's going on with, okay, so Atlantis is working. Ursula, I am trying, like, my fingers are sweating. I'm trying so hard. But you're lucky because it won't let me do it. Okay. So any questions?
Yeah, you can type it in if you want to say something there.
So yeah, or she said you're stepping on her toes, or
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So yeah, but again, that's a sign then, right?
Yeah.
If someone's
Yeah.
stepping on somebody's stepping on your toes, that means you
Yeah.
need to move your.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that is, here I'll just share another thing that this can be really important to keep in mind. This is kind of taking us in a different area, but it's all about confidence. If you find yourself really triggered or stepped on your toes, if it means the same thing I'm thinking, if someone triggers you, like makes you like really angry or really upset or really, really happy, like any extreme emotion, if someone does that to you, there's a lesson there that you need to learn. And you need to look inside and say, okay, what is it about? Why did her saying that piss me off? Or why did if he said that to me, why did it make me cry? And if you ask that question, then you can get to the real truth of what that lesson is, and you can then start to take the lesson, and you don't need to experience that anymore. So you'll realize that you stop having those in your life, whatever that might be. And this can be a really important thing, especially in business. Like if you're putting yourself out there, um, and like for example, you're doing the video for the first time, and someone says something that makes you trigger or makes you feel bad about your video, and then you're like, wait a minute, why does that bother me? Is there really truth in it, or am I just taking that on as truth? Because someone who's saying something negative about you, it's more about them than it is yourself. But if it's happening, it's because you might energetically feel like that should be happening. And it might not be conscious. You may not really, you might say, well, no, hell no, I don't want that to happen to me. But because of where you've, the patterns you have in your life or the experience you've had in your life, you could subconsciously be expecting that. So when you put yourself out there, that's what's happening. And so it's a really good thing to think about that, and then to say, okay, why am I being triggered here? Why is this important to me? Why do I need to know? What can I take away from this? And so I'm glad I stepped on your toes, because that might mean there's an area of learning for you. You might be thinking, shut up.
She said in the chat window, she said good stuff. It's liberating.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad. That's great. I hope you weren't wearing good shoes, because I'm a shoe girl, and if I stepped on your nice shoes, on your toes with nice shoes, then I'd be very upset.
I love it. So cool. Any other questions? I'm gonna now we have a bunch of questions in the group.
Yeah.
I was gonna go through those, but the time is 9:53, and I try to keep you guys only for an hour. So we'll get to the questions next week. That's fine, or I can answer them in the group. But are there any other questions? Business questions? I know someone talked about procrastination. Delora,
Mhm.
you have any tips on how to overcome procrastination?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the
Just
exercises I helped you
just
with,
fucking do it.
yeah. Yeah, but you know what? That doesn't necessarily work. So there's
I
two
know.
things to know. Are you pressure prompted, which means that under pressure you do your best work? And so you need an external pressure in order to do it. So think about, if you're only in business now but used to work in corporate, think, okay, if you had a looming deadline, you did worked better closer to the deadline? Or are you truly procrastinating, which means you're avoiding doing the work? If you're pressure prompted, what you have to do is, because it looks like procrastination in the beginning, I'm a pressure prompted person, what you have to do then is you have to figure out a different way to prompt you, like to get that pressure on yourself. It could be that you have an accountability, like in our mastermind, we also include accountability. So if I say I'm going to do something and I don't, you can bet they're going to call me out on it. So you can build in accountability that way. That's why it's so great to have a coach. That's really important as well, because then you can say, you know what, this is my goal for the week, and if I don't do it, I give you permission to, to hold me accountable to that. So that's pressure prompted. Or you can say, for example, set a deadline that I'm going to have my video done in 2 days, and then announce it publicly. So you have no choice but to have the damn thing done, because you put it out there for people, right? You don't want to let them down. So that's pressure prompted. If it's procrastination, you just avoided doing it, ask yourself, why am I not doing this? What is it I don't like to do? And you can almost take this exercise, the benefits, negative voice, how to deal with it, and just say, okay, my goal is, and whatever it is, why am I not doing it? Ask yourself that question. Write down the answers that come to you. And the reason I always go back to writing, guys, by the way, is because just thinking lets it sit in your brain a little bit, but when you actually see it in black and white and you're using your hand, it uses a different side of your, like a different part of your brain, and then you see it visually, you've written it down physically, and you're able to like read it out loud or just see it in a different way. It activates different parts of your brain and it's more effective. And this is not just me saying it, it's scientifically proven. So that's why I often say, you'll hear me say, write it down, or, you know, if you're not comfortable writing, speak into an audio file and record yourself saying it, if that's the case. But do it in a different way than just thinking this, because you'll also forget, because we're busy people. I'm sure you guys are like me. You have kids and business and jobs and a life, so you don't have all this time to think about all this stuff. So procrastinating. So if you're going to procrastinate that way, you have to say, why am I procrastinating? What is it I don't like to do? And then you might uncover that you're really uncomfortable with your writing. You're scared that people are going to criticize it. Or it might be a fear of public speaking, like that girl that I was talking about. It sounded like she was procrastinating, or she said she was a perfectionist, but it wasn't anything to do with that. It was because she was scared to be humiliated in front of a crowd like she was in math class. And so it's never procrastination, never. Unless you hate what you do, and then you really just don't want to do it, but you're going to uncover that in this exercise. It could be that you're scared of something. You're scared of people laughing at you, or that it's not going to be good enough, or that you're going to be judged. And so just ask yourself, what is that? Where does it come from? And just asking that question and listening for what the answer is going to get you in a different place than if you just straight up procrastinating. Another thing is, you may be looking at your goal and it may seem too big. Like, God, I have so much to do. I just can't get it all done. And so in that case, say, okay, what is it I can do that's going to get me towards that? So say, for example, it's posting 5 times a day. And I'll tell you, this is something that I struggled with. I wanted to post 5 times a day in one area, never mind all the other groups I wanted to do. And I'm like, I don't have 5 ideas. So I said, okay, well then what do I have an idea for? And I'm like, well, a lot of my clients this week came up with decision making, make decisions. So what I did was, as I started going back to all the books I've read about around decision making, pulling out quotes that I really resonated with, I would Google decision making quotes, and then ideas would start popping in my head. So instead of worrying about the 5 posts, all of a sudden I had like these ideas for a whole bunch, and I would write them down until I could get to them, and then write out a post for it. And then all of a sudden 5 posts was like a joke. It was like, oh, this is easy. It's not bad at all, because I reverse engineered it. I looked at it from a different angle. Does that help? That was a long-winded answer to procrastination.
No, absolutely. We have feedback. I'm going to unmute. Hey, Elena, if you could unmute your microphone, you can have the floor now. You can talk to Delora.
Okay, hi guys.
Hi.
I just wanted to say, hi, it's me again. I've just spent a lifetime, literally, for as long as I can remember, avoiding rejection. So not feeling it, even if it happens, sort of just making this bubble that says, okay, it happened, but this is what needs to be done. So yeah. I've gone out of my way to avoid it, and I'm realizing it really has held me back.
Yeah.
It's not healthy, because you experience rejection at some point, and this has just been an eye-opening year for me, period. But when I heard you say some of the things that you said, like the girl who was afraid to speak because she was afraid she was going to be humiliated.
Yeah.
When you said that, I'm thinking, why am I afraid of rejection? Why do I avoid it so much? And unless I see a clear path of not being rejected, then I don't take that path.
Mm-hmm. So being rejected for you was a painful. Were you rejected when you were a kid? Was that painful?
I don't remember. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm glad you said write it down too, because now that's something I need to write down and figure out, why is it that I avoid it so much?
Yeah.
And so that I can move past that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it may
I
not
don't
have
think,
happened to you directly. You may have witnessed someone being rejected and thought, oh, I never want to feel that, right? It may not have happened to you directly. It could have been your sister, mother, brother, you know, a teacher. It could have been anyone in your life, and you just saw that happen. Um,
right,
and then by writing it down, absolutely, you can then go back to it, right? Like some of what I'm telling you, you guys tonight will resonate with you, and then it may not hit you until tomorrow. Oh my goodness, she said this, but for me, this means that. So stick with it and like just keep journaling about it and see what comes up for you. The other thing about rejection, anytime you're pushing anything down or you're avoiding it, if you can imagine holding a beach ball underwater, you can hold it down for a while. It's, you know, you can be successful, but then all of a sudden the ball's going to pop up and you don't know where and you don't know how big of a splash it's going to make, right?
right,
That's what
right,
happens anytime we push something like this down. Rejection, you know, there's so many things that people feel, and there's no shame in that. We all are born with all this stuff. Not born with it, but we're taught it after we're born, actually. And so the beach ball coming out of the water, you just don't know where it's going to come out or how. Like some people have big reactions to something. They're like, why did I react like that? Holy smokes. But it's the beach ball coming out of the water. And so being aware, like it's so beautiful that you had that awareness tonight because now you can kind of address it a little bit head on.
right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So the time is now 10:02 p.m. Um, Again, Delora is a gem, a jewel, an angel. She knows her stuff. I was about to say a bad word, but she knows her shit. She
I know my shit too.
yeah, she knows her shit. So this is definitely a treat, Delora. I really, really appreciate it, guys. I'm gonna let you have. I'm gonna give you 30 more seconds to ask questions. Delora, in the meantime, can you tell everybody how they can find you on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, email?
Yeah, for sure. So my last name is kind of complicated, but AJ put it in the folder, and I'm sure he'll spell it out for you guys in the group and stuff. But it's Delora Guignion, and I can be found everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think I'm on Pinterest too. I don't know. Um, you can find me everywhere with Delora Guignion. I also have a group called Richer Life Mindset, and I talk about everything, including sex, people. So everything's in there, all around mindset and having a richer life mindset. So feel free to get me there. And the other thing is, you know, for this week, if you guys have any follow-up questions, for those that were not on the call, or for those of you on the call that you can think of something that comes up, just do whatever you would normally do to ask AJ a question in his group, and he'll get it to me, and I'll make sure I answer. I'll either do a video especially for you guys, or I'll answer by writing, and he can post it in the group for you guys. So.
Awesome. I love it. So you guys can follow Delora. She's a wealth of information. She has a Richer Life Mindset group. Delora, is it facebook.com/Richer Life Mindset, or how do we?
Yeah. Yep, that's
Okay,
exactly what it is. Yep.
facebook.com/Richer Life Mindset.
Yeah.
So everyone who is your question to answer your question, Ursula, everyone who is in the coaching group will get the questions. So I mean, you'll get the notes and you'll get the recording. For those of you who are not in the group, if you're interested in joining the group, you can send me an email, and I will explain, what the group is and how the milestones, and we're going to learn and we're going to grow and we're going to be better daily. And every week we have this call. Well, starting actually, yeah, every week we're going to have this call. And as of today, I think I'm going to change it. I think I'm going to try to bring an expert on every week. Because if you guys have questions for me, I can answer those questions in the group. But I do have, I've been blessed to have a pretty decent network of really, really cool and smart people. So every week we're going to bring on a new expert, or we're going to try. And Delora, you are the inaugural expert.
Yay, I'm excited. That's awesome. Well, you guys have been great. I'm so glad for the feedback and that you guys got something from this. And like I said, don't be scared to reach out through AJ or directly to me, and I'm happy to answer questions. even if you just follow my personal page, I have I post all the time.
Delora
I'm
is,
always posting things.
Delora is a freaking amazing writer.
Oh,
She's,
thank you.
and I'm sure you can tell by her demeanor. She's, again, we've talked every day now since June, Monday
Yeah.
through Friday. We're in our mastermind. Um, and again, I think we're gonna dig back into the mastermind that we had in our group, guys, because I think that's very important just to have that accountability. We'll get that set up and going again, and I'll try to make it easier. Some of the feedback that I got in the group at a point was that I was giving too many assignments, and people were like, couldn't do their stuff because they were so busy doing assignments. So I know Delora and I, we're in another group. We know how that feels.
Yeah, for sure.
So
You can be
I'll
overwhelmed
be sure
easily.
to try to find the right cadence as far as giving you guys assignments and challenges and things like that. So here's what I'm going to do. Before we go, I want everybody on the call to just say thank you or share something that you've learned or taken away. Benitra said that she wasn't able to talk, so I will start with the next person. That is Barbara. Barbara, just share. You can either just say thank you or something, but I want you to share very quickly, if you will, something with Delora.
I just think, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just think that this is very, very enlightening, and it's just refreshing to be around positive-minded business people, and maybe not in my own circle because I'm in my own arena of business, but
Yeah.
it's good to be around other professional people that have a positive impact, and this was very enlightening. So thank you very much.
No, good for you. I'm so glad. And you're right. It can be hard sometimes in your own circle to find it. So I'm glad you were able to find it here tonight.
Cool. All right. I will move on to Cassandra. Uh, let's see. Something is going on with this. I'm unable to mute people. I feel like I'm going to punch my screen. Not letting
No.
unmute Cassandra. Okay, Shantae, you are on. Anything you want to share?
Hi, yes, I have thoroughly enjoyed the webinar tonight. It's just it's mind blowing. I learned so much about myself in this hour. Things that I thought I knew about myself, I've learned more. I'm gonna definitely do the exercises as soon as possible because I have that negative voice and the procrastination problem. So thank you guys so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad.
Awesome. And Shantae is our community manager. I didn't make an announcement, but Shantae is now going to be posting some of the accountability posts on Mondays and Fridays. So that is Shantae, ladies and gentlemen, Shantae Gudrum. She is now officially a part of the team. Up next, we have Elena. Elena actually typed some feedback in the window, but I would like for you to give Delora feedback live if you could.
Hi, Delora.
Hi.
It's me again. I just wanted to say thank you. I feel empowered to move forward because that little voice in the back of my head has been there for so long. It's been such a battle, and I've never really written anything down. It's just me remembering and using it at that moment to stop my progress. So I just wanted to say thank you. I came in late, but from 9:22 to now 10:09 has been very pivotal for me in what I'm trying to accomplish. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm glad to hear that. And you're in charge, not the voice.
There you go. So we have, let's see, Tracy. Tracy, if you would go ahead and unmute your mic, you can go ahead and leave feedback as well.
Hi, Delora. I just want to say thank you for the motivation and just more motivation for me to keep moving forward and I'll never quit. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm excited for you, Tracy. Yay.
Mhm.
Love it. And last but not least, we have Ursula. And I don't know what Ursula and Cassandra, I could not unmute your microphone. So you guys got off the hook tonight. But Ursula says she's learned how to get past barriers, how to get out of her own way. And she says, thank you so much, Delora.
Oh, you're welcome, Ursula. I'm so glad.
So that's everybody. Guys, and one more thing I'm going to ask of you, just because I'm always asking things. If you guys would email me, what you thought of tonight's call, so that I can create some testimonial cards for Delora, that would be totally, totally, totally awesome. So Delora, what I'll do is I'm going to create testimonial cards with their pictures on them and their testimonial, so that you can have those testimonials of, tonight's call.
That's great. Well, thank you, ladies. It's been a great opportunity to speak with you guys. I'm always excited to do this, and that you guys had some takeaways. And AJ, I love you already.
Yeah, there you go. Love you too. All right. So, all right, guys. I will talk to you guys in the group. Delora, I will talk to you tomorrow morning at 7:30 sharp.
Sounds
AM.
good.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.